deeply honored to be a part of this coalition. And before I get into my comments, I'm also deeply shocked every time I see George Nee, because when I first met George, all he had was two blue jeans and a couple of blue kind of work shirts, just coming off his work with Cesar Chavez. I had just come back a few years earlier from the work in the Black Belt counties of Alabama and Mississippi, doing voter registration stuff. And so that's how we met. And here we are telescoping 40 plus years later with the same passion for supporting issues and things that concern our people. So I'm really proud to be here, not just with you, George, but with the rest of the coalition, Pablo and everybody, Mike, to be supportive of not supporting the call of the Constitutional Convention. A Constitutional Convention would determine the future of a state that is undergoing significant demographic change. By the year 2024, that's 10 years from now, Rhode Island's population will be nearing a majority-minority state, if not being there at that point, that will incorporate new energy and cultural inclusion into the fabric of our beautiful state. This is a wonderful development for those that appreciate this value. However, this is quite troubling to the reactionary crowd, and we know who they are. Knowing of this reality, it will energize and encourage regressive groups opposed to protecting the rights of people of color and yearn for the return of yesteryear. Given that historically has been less than 18% of the voting population that participates in the delegate selection, it opens the door wide open to special interest groups that are anti-progressive on issues related to social and economic change and justice. In addition, two other amendments approved by the 1986 Convention and the voters dealing with drug crimes and voting rights had a significant adverse impact on racial minorities. Across the country, other social issues like attacks on affirmative actions, women's rights, gay rights, the rights of immigrants, etc., also routinely become fodder for expensive statewide campaigns mounted by special interests to garner success, placing these on the ballot outside the regular legislative process. There is no limit on the amount of money that outside special interests can now spend to persuade delegates to support past constitutional amendments on ideological-driven social issues, as we have seen this take place regularly in other states. We have an opportunity to protect the state of Rhode Island as a symbol of tolerance that is reflected in our history and progressive legislation that adapts to the rapidly changing demographic times. For those of you who can recall, you might be a little too young, but Alvin, the great futurist, he talked about, one of our big challenges here in America and here in Rhode Island is adapting to the rapidly changing times. And clearly, the demographic changes are incredible in terms of what's happening here. And unless we're able to adapt to those changes, legislatively, socially, economically, we are going to be in a progressive position going forward as we try to build a stronger state for all of us. It also relates to Bob Dylan's song. I don't know how many of you remember Bob Dylan, but he talked about these times they were changing. And some of you young folks, you ought to pick up on Bob Dylan sometime and get a sense of his understanding of the future. In these rapidly changing times, locally, nationally, and internationally, Rhode Island's most precious resource is our people. And we're headed to become one of the most diverse states in the nation. The deep concern that I have is the distinct possibility that the reactionaries to this demographic change will also be driven by racism, anti-Semitism, become very homophobic, immigration resistant to women's issues, and all of this manifesting into progressive or regressive legislation. For the good of our state and its people, along with my colleagues here, I would strongly oppose the calling of the Rhode Island Constitutional Convention. Thank you.